All right, so thank you to those of you who are just now tuning in. This is our last webinar of our Get Involved Week, which focuses on getting involved in by starting a new student organization. So if you've made it through the week and have not yet found your perfect fit, or maybe there's something that you were hoping we would have that we don't already have on campus, we always work with new students to get new organizations started on campus. And so Jeff is going to kind of take over and walk you through the process of how to start a new organization on campus.
Hi, everyone. I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Jeff. I am the Director of Student Development, and I work with all the new groups who are trying to get formed on campus. And I'm going to share my screen in a minute, but I just wanted to say thanks for coming and thanks for thinking about starting a new organization on campus. Every year we start close to 10 organizations on campus, but I want to say that I talk to probably 20 different people who have wonderful ideas. So I just want to let me hit the share button here because the opening of my, let's see here, because the very first slide I think says it best. There we go, let me get it on the first slide. There we go. All right. So there we go. Lauren, can you see that, or do you see multiple screens?
I'm seeing multiple screens.
Okay, let me fix that.
Still seeing multiple screens.
Yeah, I have to figure out how to flip them. We'll see display settings. Now you can see just the one, right?
Yep.
Awesome. So yeah, so I just wanted to say that this is the easiest part of the process. Starting a new organization on campus is not difficult. Having a great organization on campus, being able to maintain a great organization on campus is way harder than actually starting an organization. So we're going to make this nice and easy, and we're going to get as many people started as possible, and then it'll be up to the student leaders to make sure that they are a vibrant, exciting club that lasts a little while. So right in the beginning, I'm just going to tell you there are a lot of memes here today, and Lauren loves memes, so I put them all in here for her. That's a joke. She doesn't like them. So anyway, so yeah, so it's really important that you have a good grasp of why you want to be a club, what you want to be, who you want to be, and right now, like, why does this organization fill a gap at Stockton that is necessary? Okay, because if you don't have these questions answered, it's going to be more difficult to get people involved. Okay, so like I want you all to, and you can put it, by the way, you can put it in the chat feature if you can. What club are you starting? Not just the name, but like what is the club really about? Why this group? Why you seem to be the person who's bringing this group together? Why is it important that we have this group on campus now? What is the elevator speech? If someone were to come to you and say, what's your club all about? What are the 2 or 3 sentences that you can put together that is going to convince someone that you are cool and they want to join you? Because one of the main things that you're going to have to do is convince at least 9 other students that this is a great idea. So I encourage you to go ahead and introduce yourself. The chat feature won't appear on the YouTube slide, or the YouTube that we save for later. So please just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about what kind of club you're thinking about starting. So once you know the whys and the hows and the why nows, and you're ready to really pitch your club, the next question I always ask is, why do you want to be a club? And I always get the same kind of 5 or 6 answers. So what we talk about here at Stockton is we talked about becoming a recognized student organization. So you're going to hear those terms a lot. Recognized student organization. Why do you want to be recognized by the university? There are plenty of great ideas out there and great pastimes that you don't really need to be recognized. And when you see the benefits and the requirements, you might decide that we don't really need recognition. We can do this without recognition. Um, every couple of years I have someone come into my office and they're a freshman and they're very excited. And I say like, well, what kind of club do you want to start? They're like, well, we want to start the Madden Club. I say, great, what do you do? We sit around and we play Madden. I say, okay, what do you do now? We sit around and we play Madden. I said, well, then why do you need a club? And they go, oh, you're right. I guess we don't need a club for this. And they go away and they play their Madden every night and every day and hopefully get enough studying done. But, there are plenty of great ideas and plenty of cool things you do on campus that you don't need to be a club. But if you do become a club, what do you get? Okay, so this is what you get. You get to be official. Okay, you get to be the blah, blah, blah club of Stockton University. All right, this officialness lets you use the name of the university, lets you proclaim yourself in public to be the club. It also will get you to be part of the community. So one of the most important parts about being a recognized student organization is you get to go to all the cool events. You get to throw a program during university weekend. You get to go to the Get Involved Fair. You get to, take part in days of service and days of leadership. And, you just get involved with all of the things that we offer in student development and through the university. So that is probably the best, in my opinion, the best benefit that comes with becoming recognized. The other great benefit is you get to hold events and fundraisers on campus. Those aren't the only benefits and the only campus resources you get to use. There are other campus resources like obviously, if you get a room, you also get the lights turned on and you get the internet and you get the, to use the equipment. If you're holding a protest or a march or an outside event, you can borrow our sound systems. There are, layers and layers and layers of campus resources that you get access to once you become recognized. But the two that everybody wants is we want to hold an event. So we want that room reservation, or we want to be able to put a table here, or, the holding of an event and reserving a space on campus is a very powerful tool. And then you also get to hold fundraisers on campus. Every club and organization on campus is allowed to do fundraisers. So that's important. A lot of people, when they come in, they are starting a club simply to hold a specific event. I don't always think that's the best way to start an organization, because an organization should be bigger than just one event. There are some organizations that have crowning events, and that's great. But the organization should have, a mission that's a little bit bigger than just a single event. All right. The next thing that people want, or that all recognized organization gets, is that they get to be part of the business of the university. And this is really important because this comes with some benefits and it also comes with some costs. Part of us, and we are a state institution, so we are part of the state of New Jersey, and that means that if something bad were to happen and the club were to receive a lawsuit, if the club was doing business that was part of the regular business of the university would be able to support that event was part of the business of the university. So if you have a speaker coming to campus and they trip and they break their ankle and they're going to sue the university. And everybody's out there saying like, oh, why would I get sued? Well, a lot of our clubs do a lot of travel. And once you're getting into a van or you're going to a location, accidents happen. And we don't want that to fall on the shoulders of the students. We don't want a student to have a financial burden because of what they were doing with their club organization. The other side of that is that the university now has to approve of all events and all fundraisers and all trips, and we have a form for everything. Okay, if you want to go on an event, you want to hold an event, we have an event form. You want to go on a trip, we have a trip form. You want to hold a fundraiser, we have a fundraiser form. You want to borrow the sound system, we're going to need to know where it's going. So all of this legitimacy comes with it some power, but it also comes with it some responsibility. So I think Spider-Man said that or something. And then the last thing on the list, which just about everybody wants, is to get funded, okay? And I just want to make sure that everyone knows that not everyone who goes through this process gets funded, okay? Just because you are a recognized student organization doesn't mean you get funded. Doesn't mean that your event will get funded, doesn't mean that the Student Senate will give you a budget. And that's actually our next slide. So who and what gets funded? Okay, so this is really important, that the only groups, recognized student organizations, that will be funded are groups that are open for all students. What does that mean? That means you don't need to be a Christian to join the Christian Fellowship, and you don't need to be an accounting major to join the Accounting Society, okay? But it also means that you're selecting your leadership and making decisions through some sort of democratic process. Okay, so that means you need to vote on who's going to be the next president. You need to vote on which money will be spent where. So democratic process. And the third thing that you need is you need to have been recognized for 2 semesters. So it doesn't matter how great the idea is. It doesn't matter, how exciting something you might plan is. For the first 2 semesters, you're not eligible for funding. Okay, so what gets funded? What gets funded at Stockton are events and trips that are open for all students. We do have the ability to fund marketing items for clubs and organizations that are recognized, but there are some limitations. Operational needs for the group. Obviously, that's important. And there's also some limited training and conferences that can be funded. What do I mean by limited training and conferences? It means you might not be able to afford to send everyone to the conference, but your leadership might be able to attend that conference. And that's why it is important that we select our leadership through a democratic process. All right. Let me back up just a little bit here to say, here's the deal. As soon as you become a recognized organization at Stockton, you can hold events and fundraisers on campus, but you won't receive funding from the Student Senate or the university itself. You have to have an idea and the wherewithal to be a recognized student organization for 2 semesters before you'll be funded. All right. But that's not all you need. What do you need to start a club? Let's talk about that. All right. What you need are 10 members, 10 student members, 10 current student members, 10 currently eligible student members. So what does eligibility mean? Eligibility means that you are a student, you are currently enrolled at the university, you are not currently under any kind of judicial or other process that would limit you from not being able to be a member of a club, and you need to have above a 2.0 GPA, okay? For officers, we're going to need above a 2.3, but for general members, we're going to need a 2.0, okay? So we need 10 of these people, all right? By the way, you count. So if you are the president, it's you and 9 friends, all right? And this is important that you understand that not everybody at the university fits this, okay? If you ask 10 of your friends, are you enrolled? Are you eligible to join clubs? Do you have a 2.0 GPA? Every single one of them is going to be like, oh, totally. I can totally join your club. I definitely have above a 2.0. And this is where I say, there are some donkeys out there. I'll use the term donkeys because we're recording this. There's a little picture down at the bottom there. You could make it up yourself. You ask, let's call him Fred. I don't want to bag on Fred too much, but we're going to talk about Fred. You ask your friend Fred, do you have a 2.0? Yeah. You remember? Yeah. Well, when you give me Fred's name, I look him up, and Fred hasn't paid his bill for 2 years. Fred's currently not enrolled in any courses, and Fred punched the last president of his club, so he has a thing, he is not eligible to join clubs. If you give me, or give the Office of Student Development 10 names, and we find a Fred, we're not going to be able to start your club. We're not going to be able to tell you who Fred is, what kind of problem Fred has, or or tell you exactly how many Freds are on your roster. We're just going to give it back to you and say this roster is incomplete, and you'll be like, "But I have 10," and I'll just say this roster is incomplete. I can never tell you what Fred's problems are. So most clubs are going to give between 15 and 20 names. Because they know if there's a Fred or two in there, it's not going to slow them down any. All right, so 10 eligible students on the roster. You'll also need an advisor. An advisor, what are the requirements to be an advisor? They need to be a full-time employee of the university. There are plenty of people here who work very hard who are not full-time. There are some part-time faculty out there. There are some part-time employees. We really want to make sure that we have a full-time employee of the university. So if they say that they're an adjunct or they say they're part-time, we might need to look for something else. By the way, that doesn't mean they shouldn't be your advisor. It just means that you need to have at least one advisor who is a full-time employee of the university. We also have people who come here every day to work, but they don't work for the university. They work for either Chartwell's or the bookstore, and those are organizations that are not university employees. So there it is. 10, these are the people that you need. 10 eligible students, 1 eligible advisor, okay? And like I said, you can have 30 advisors and you can have 75 students. That's great. The minimum is 10 and 1, all right? After that, there is some paperwork. There's a form on the Osprey Hub, and I'm going to show you exactly where that is. But it's going to ask you a bunch of questions that are going to make sure that all of those questions on the first slide you're able to answer. Excuse me. Like, what is your club about, and how would you describe it, and do you plan to offer membership for all students, no matter what race, creed, color? By the way, it's the only question you can fail. All the other questions are just to make sure that you understand the club moving forward and that you're ready to do it. So that form on the Osprey Hub, we're going to show you that in a minute. You're also going to need to know all the people on the left side, their Stockton email address. Very frequently, students come in and they want to start a club and they hand me a whole bunch of Z numbers. And I go, that's great. Do you have their email addresses? Because you are going to load this through the Osprey Hub, and the Osprey Hub is going to ask only for their email addresses. You shouldn't be trading Z numbers with your friends. All right. And the third thing that you're going to need is a constitution. All right. Okay. Constitution is kind of the homework that you're going to have to do, and I'm going to show you real specifically how to do a constitution. All right. My son is currently quite addicted to Hamilton, so I had to throw in the Hamilton meme here. But it's very important that you understand that we're not trying to make you work really hard and become a founding father and be as brilliant as some of the people who founded this country to create a constitution. We're going to give you a constitution. We're going to give you a fill-in-the-blank constitution. It's a Word document. It is available on our website and on our Osprey Hub. And I will confirm that they are the best, the current versions right after I finish recording this. And the way that this document works is it's fill in the blank, and it's really basic, and it's the easiest way for you to get from where you are now to being able to turn in your paperwork. You can have a more complex constitution. This is the basics. So I'm gonna stop my share here for a second, and I'm gonna share Go away window, thank you. I'm going to share the Word document that we have as our Constitution. There we go. All right. Let me change the view here. Let's get that zoom going a little better here. It's a little easier for everybody to read. There we go. I'm going to go back down just a little bit more. There you go. So this is the model Constitution. We have this as a Word document. I'm going to warn you now that if you're a Google Docs person and you transfer this document back and forth a couple times to the Google Docs, it will really mess with the margins. So if you do go back and forth to Google Doc, just make sure you try and repair the margins before you hand it in, or else it will print really weird. And the way this works is everything that is yellow is what needs to be fixed. These are the fill in the blanks or the messages to the author that we've set up for you. So you're going to write the name of the club 100 times. So just be prepared for that. And, you know, it's as simple as this. Name of the club is Jeff's Super Cool Club. All right. Highlight it, remove the yellow. We don't need to see it yellow. And move forward. President's name, you could fill in the president's name, club name, founding club member. If there are other members, you can fill them out here. This is the cover sheet. And then at the end, we can sign the cover sheet. It becomes the first document of the organization. All right. I already mentioned you're gonna write the name of the organization 100 times. And the very first section of the Constitution is the name. All right. The name of this organization shall be Jeff's Super Cool Club. Here referred to as, you know, what are we going to call it here? Oops. Jeff's Super Cool Club. And the JSCC is a recognized organization of Stockton University. And the reason that we do this, if you have an acronym, you're going to throw it in here because it's a lot easier to type the acronym sometimes than typing out the whole name all the time. So section B here is affiliation, and you can see that right here. And this is a good section because it has both a note and a fill in the blank section for you. So if you read this first part right here, it says, if the club is a member of a national or state organization, add the following statement and attach a copy of the National Constitution as will become part of this document. Erase this statement when complete. So that's, it seems pretty obvious, but you have no idea how many times people fill this out and then they leave this part. So yeah, so there it is. The JSCC may be a chapter of the National Jeff is Cool Club, but is recognized as an independent organization at Stockton University. The rules and regulations of the National Jeff is Cool Club shall not be followed when inconsistent with the rules and regulations of Stockton University. If the affiliation with the National Jeff is Cool Club is severed for any reason, the organization may continue as a fully recognized organization at Stockton. Don't forget to erase all the things that are no longer necessary. And get rid of the yellow, okay? This is how the flow of the entire Constitution is going to work. You need to recognize what you keep and what you don't. If you're not a member of a national organization, you just get rid of the whole thing, okay? As we move forward, I'm going to just skip through everything a little bit faster. Hopefully you understand how to edit the document now. The purpose of this organization shall be, insert your purpose, which should be a brief description of the goals of this organization. It's very important that you take care to write a good purpose statement. The very first slide and the very first thing I asked all of you is, what is this club all about? What is the purpose of this? Excuse me, take a drink here. And it's really important that you have this as a clear understanding. and that when you write your purpose statement, it is broad enough and specific enough all at the same time. I always talk about like the ski club. And if the purpose of this organization, and we're trying to start a ski club, the purpose of the organization is to go snow skiing, period. And that is the end of the purpose. Then they can't show a ski movie on campus. They can't invite a famous skier to speak about gear. They can't go water skiing because they wrote a purpose that was so narrow. It didn't allow them to do other things. So be careful about that. If they would have written the purpose of this organization shall be to go skiing and promote ski culture amongst the entire campus community, now they can show that movie, they can go water skiing, they can do anything they want to, as long as it has something to do with skiing. So that's the balancing act that you need to make sure that you're doing when you write your purpose statement, okay? General membership. The ski club is open to all students at Stockton University. That is the easiest way to phrase this, but that is not a requirement. This is the easiest method to be a fundable organization, but we already described that there are plenty of organizations at Stockton that choose not to be funding. An honor society, the Biology Honor Society, has rules that say to be a member you need to be a biology student and, you know, have a blah, blah, blah GPA, and, you know, that's fine. That is a great way to run an organization, but you would not be fundable at that time, okay? Coming up next, voting members. State in complete sentences the qualifications for voting membership. A lot of people choose to do voting membership by number of meetings attended. So if you see right here, here's a recommendation. A member gains their voting rights after attending 3 meetings in the same semester. Great. Now it's very clearly defined. If 500 freshmen show up to your first meeting, they can't vote you out as president because they can't vote in their first meeting. But also, if they attend their first meeting, they can see in the future when they'll be able to vote. So again, it's a nice balance of, you know, protecting the officers from being taken over, but also protecting the members to make sure that they have a say. Okay. I once had a fishing club say to be a voting member, you must catch your first fish. And I said, great, if that's what you want to do, fantastic. What if they're really cool and they come to every single meeting and they're just not lucky? So they changed it to catch your first fish or attend 3 fishing events. Great, very easy. Make sure it is something that is easy to understand if someone reads the sentence, when they'll be able to participate fully in the organization. All right, moving on. The executive board, the governing body of Fishing Club or Jeff is Cool Club shall be known as the executive board. The executive board shall consist of 5 officers: president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, public relations officer. I don't care what officers you have. This is just a nice, easy, basic setup for you to be able to have a club organization and get it there quickly, so that way the you know, it's just nice and basic way to run it. If you want to have 17 vice presidents, go right ahead. What I do want you to do is see down here in the next section, section C, this is how you describe an officer. So if you have a vice president for outreach, say the vice president for outreach shall, and give me a list of responsibilities that that vice president has. And a vice president of, let's go back to skiing. Vice president of snow skiing shall produce events during the winter. And the vice president for water skiing will produce events during the warm months. Okay, you just have to show who the officers are and what their responsibilities are. Okay, you can so if you do change the number of officers you have, make sure you're also updating the number. All right, here's another one. List any and all requirements to be an officer. Here's a great example. At the time of appointment, an officer must have been a voting member for the prior semester. Great. Now we know that they have to show some level of dedication, attending at least 3 meetings in a semester to become a voting member. And before they can be president, they should have been a voting member in a prior semester. So yeah, it's a nice, you'll see how this Constitution kind of builds on itself and allows language earlier to support language later, okay? Okay, so notice there's nothing here that's yellow. Great, that means you don't have to change it, but you can change it if you want to, okay? President, Vice President, Secretary, Treasurer. Committees, I love this part. This entire section is optional. If you don't want to have committees in your club, you don't have to have committees in your club. If you're going to have committees, please try and describe the committees in this way, so that way we can easily understand what it is you're trying to do. Instead of having a vice president for snow skiing and a vice president for water skiing, the ski club could have a committee for snow skiing and a committee for water skiing. And here's what it looks like. Committees. We have 2 committees. The committees are snow and water skiing. Number 1, the snowing skiing committee will be comprised of the vice president and will have 4 members and will program the snow events. The ski committee will be, the secretary will be in charge of it, and they do the water skiing events. I don't know what your club is all about. You need to tell me what your club is all about. If you don't have committees and you decide to erase this, just make sure you update your numbering again, because Article 5, this now becomes Article 5, and this now becomes Article 6 down here. Okay? So Article 5, advisor. The advisor shall be a member of the full-time faculty or full-time professional employee of the Stockton University. The advisor shall be voted in by a 2/3 majority of the voting members at a regularly scheduled meeting. That's right. You and your members pick your advisor. You do not get assigned a faculty staff advisor. I mean, you may get offered one, but this is a democratic authority of the students inside the organization. So those voting members who have been to 3 meetings, they are the ones who should be choosing the advisor, okay? So you don't put your advisor's name here because the advisor might change every year. Okay, what if you wanted to remove somebody? What if there was a vacancy? What if somebody resigns? All of that is all laid out there for you. You can just read along. Again, you don't have to change anything here, but if you want to, you can. How to hold a meeting is here. The meeting rules are here. There's only 2 meeting rules. The first one is we need to have a quorum. A quorum is, and it's explained right here, the number of members required to be in the room to have a meeting. Go back to Hamilton and say in the room where it happened. What this does is this prevents you and your roommate, who's the vice president, from having a meeting, being like, "Psst, ski club meeting. Let's spend all our money on shirts. 2-0. Yay, we just spent all our money." No, it doesn't work that way. You need to have all of the general members, not all of them. You need to have a certain number of general members in the room to do business of the organization. And that's what a quorum is. Most people use the number 50% plus 1 of the voting membership. Who are the voting members? All the way back up top, we already said that. Everybody who's been to 3 meetings. Okay? Again, this protects, this up here about who votes protects you from being taken over by a bunch of new people who don't know anything about the club. This down here, the quorum rules, protects the club from the officers from making unpopular decisions. So again, the Constitution is balancing off each other. Next up is parliamentary authority. Robert's Rules of Order shall govern this organization in any case that is applicable that is not inconsistent with the Constitution. So what this means is the Constitution is the rules of your club and organization. The voting rules, who's who, what the president has to do, all dictated by the Constitution. To have an advisor, how the meeting runs, how to hold an election, it's all dictated by the Constitution. If for some reason there's something going on that you didn't write about, okay? Somebody wants to make a motion at a meeting that is going to change the way the organization runs, and we're going to delay the vote because there's a fire alarm, but the meeting time runs out, so we have to move to the next meeting. These are all things that you don't have to write in your Constitution, okay? There's a book called the Robert's Rules of Order. I usually hold up a copy of this meeting, but I don't have it next to me. And that will take care of all the business that you didn't write about, okay? Remember Fred? Fred is the only time we're going to really need to worry about Robert's rules. If you have a person in your meeting who's not being friendly, who's derailing, we can work with Robert's rules to make sure that the club continues. Other than that, you don't need to worry about this. It's just a relief valve in case something goes wrong. All right. How to hold an elections is here. How to write an amendment to the Constitution is here. And then the last clause here is the examination clause. It's very important. I already mentioned that once you're a recognized student organization at Stockton, you become part of the university's business, which means that all of the club's financial records, minutes, and voting records are subject to examination upon request. You're a state business, so your minutes could be subpoenaed. Your financial records need to be maintained by our office. What does this mean? Financial records. It means when you hold that fundraising event, you do a bake sale or something on campus, you bring your Ziploc bag full of money up to our office, and we deposit it into your account. We will hold accounts for all the clubs and organizations that are recognized, and we'll hold it forever. And all the financial records are going to be withheld inside the Osprey Hub. So, 3 years later, when Fred says, hey, whatever happened to the t-shirt money? We could pull up your account and we could say, oh, well, here is where blah, blah, blah deposited the money. And here's where the t-shirts were purchased. And here's where it was left over. And, and this is a great method. No one ever gets accused of stealing any money. And nobody should be holding money in an envelope in the trunk of their car so that they can lose it. You deposit it all with us, and we're going to take care of all of your money. Even if you're just raising money for a good cause. If you do a bake sale for kids with cancer and you're going to bring it in and you're going to deposit it with us, and after you deposit that $200 or whatever it is, you tell us to please write that check to this organization, whether it be Susan G. Komen or whatever, we'll write that check. So again, no one ever says that the money disappeared, okay? Minutes and voting records are all important. You must keep minutes. You must keep voting records. Again, Fred could call me and say, hey, the president robbed me. I was supposed to be elected president and they cheated. They faked the elections. What would happen in that case is I would call the president and I would say, hey, I need the minutes and the voting records from the meeting last week. And you'd supply them to me and I'd read them over. And if you followed your Constitution, I'd say, look, Fred, you lost. Go away. If you didn't follow the Constitution, I'll have a heart-to-heart with the leaders of the group and I'll say, look, you need to rehold your elections. You didn't follow your Constitution. 9 times out of 10, Fred still loses, by the way. Nobody likes Fred. He's a bit of a jackass. So anyway, yeah, so that's the way this works. That's the end of the Constitution. Okay, you fill that out and then you get your members and you bring it to the Osprey Hub, and I'm going to show you really quickly on the Osprey Hub how to put in all this information. Let me swap my screen share real quick. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There we go. Going to hit share here. Here is the Osprey Hub. Everybody should be familiar with the Osprey Hub. This is pretty easy to do, but I'm just going to show you where it is because it'll be a lot easier. First off, you should be up here. You should be logged in. You should go to organizations. You can see here there's a button for register an organization. And down at the bottom, register a new organization. The instructions are right here. That says there's 8 steps. That means you're gonna have to push the next button 8 times. It says here, if you've not already met with Jeff Wakeman, if you're watching this video, you've now met with Jeff Wakeman. So please just go right ahead and if everything makes sense to you and you're listening to me today, go ahead and input your stuff. You're gonna hit the next button, like I said, 7 times, and it's gonna ask you a lot of the questions that I would have asked. What is the name of your organization? Does it have an acronym? Notice there's a description here. This description is limited to 245 characters. The next box asks for a description again, and that is an unlimited character description. Down here, organization website URL. It's very important that you look here and see that it says, see this URL? When you type in here, it actually populates that. Now what we're doing, Jeff's Cool Club at Stockton. Notice that the URL then becomes Stockton Campus Labs Engage Organizations JCCF versus if I did Jeff's Super Cool Club, the URL gets to be a lot longer. And this is the key to understanding what you're doing here in the Osprey Hub is you are creating your organization's website. So as you go through this process, I'll just pick a random club here. Hi, Active Minds. You are creating this website for your new club. So it's going to ask you to upload a profile picture. It's going to ask you what is your description. It's going to ask you your contact information. It will ask you if you have any social media. So if you have a Facebook, if you have an Instagram account, to go out and add it all in there. It's going to ask you who are your officers. So all of the members and the officers that I mentioned that you have to bring forward, you need to load them by Stockton email address. I know everybody has multiple email addresses. I know Hot Sexy DJ 2020 is a great email address at gmail.com, but that's not going to get the job done because I need to look up everyone's grades. And to look up everyone's grades and make sure they're a student, I need to know their Stockton email address. All right. So once again, you're going to go down here. You're going to fill all this out. You're going to hit next, 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 next. You're going to come to the questions where it says, what kind of club are you? Are you academic? Are you social? Are you philanthropy? Keep answering all those questions. It's going to say, are there any organizations that are like you? Is there, a place for every student, no matter what, on this club? Who are the officers? Who are the advisors? After you load all the names, it's going to tell you then to mark who the president is and who the advisor is. Next, 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 next. When you get to the end, you're going to hit submit. Submit will actually send a message to me that someone has submitted a club or organization, and I will go through and I'll review it. Let me unshare here. Unshare, thank you. Stop share, there we go. I'll review all the things in the organization's profile. I'll review the Constitution. I may send you an email that says, hey, in Article 4, you wrote this, this, and this. Are you sure that's the way you want to run your organization? If you do and if it works, that's great. I'm just here to offer advice. Once I have confirmed that you have 10 members and you have an advisor and your Constitution works, again, I don't care if you have 12 vice presidents. As long as I think it'll work, I'm going to push go. As soon as I press accept, you're a club, you're an organization with all rights and responsibilities at Stockton. What are those rights and responsibilities? Well, everything we've already talked about is required every semester. You need to make sure your Constitution is constantly on file with us. You need to make sure that you maintain 10 members and an advisor, and that you're constantly keeping us aware of all your events and organizations and activities. It's not hard. It's very simple. Like I said, it is a lot easier to start a club at Stockton than it is to have a exciting and vibrant and a club that is full of membership and full of events. So we want to get you through this process as soon as possible. We don't want this to slow you down. So if you're having trouble finding an advisor, or if you're having trouble finding 10 members, we can help you out. If you contact our office, we can help you get a table on campus, or find some emails of students who might be interested, or connect you with a faculty or staff member who might be interested in advising you. Like I said, we're in the business of making clubs. Every year, my end of the year report doesn't say 37 people tried to make a club. It says these 15 people made a club. So we want as much activity on campus as possible, and we feel one of the best ways to do it is by having a recognized student organization. So yeah, that is how to start a club in a nutshell. It is easier than it looks. Once you start playing around, it's going to be easy to figure out. Obviously, if this didn't make sense, you can contact our office and we'll walk you through it. But I just wanted to make sure we left some time to answer any questions that were from anybody in the group. All right, I'm not sure I'm seeing any questions.
No, I think the only question that we had from our Facebook audience was, how do we begin this process if we have ideas?
Oh, okay.
But I think that you kind of explained that, because that was a question early on.
Yeah. I know a frequent question I get is, what if there's a club that's kind of like us? And I'll say that as long as you can explain it and make it sound a little different, it's going to be okay. We have multiple groups that are based in the Christian faith. We have multiple groups that are working on environmental causes. We're not here to decide which is better or which is worse and make one club a go and one club not a go. I do encourage you, though, if there is a club that is like you, to join forces, because there's no reason to have 27 different clubs trying to do the same thing when one big club would be more powerful. So if you feel you're different, that's different enough for us. All right, Lauren, and I don't have to plug any other sessions, right? I do want to plug our YouTube channel and get everyone to mark attendance for this event, right?
We have been doing that on the webinars.
Oh, we haven't been doing that on the webinars.
Yeah.
I do want to plug our YouTube channel. If you haven't seen any of the other videos, I'm going to say click right. I got to make sure to point the right way. Click right up here, because we have an entire session of all of our officer trainings and many of these webinars about how to get involved. So I will link them both up here. Whichever one I linked first, now I'll link the other one. And yeah. Thank you all for attending, and if you do have a crazy idea, please talk to us, because we love crazy ideas.
Great, thank you so much, Jeff, and thank you to everybody who is watching us live or watching us through Facebook. We appreciate you coming.